Hey everybody, welcome to episode 8 of Border Crossing with me, Dan DeMarco. This is the quest for residency continued. Sorry, let me get this thing up in here mounted. For some reason my camera turned off. Not exactly sure why, and boy is it bouncy. I don't know why this thing is so loose right now. But in any event, you're gonna have to deal with some bounciness here, I guess. So I'm calling this continuation of the quest for residency, not because I'm doing anything related to my residency today. Actually, my trip up San Diego, I'm not, but I wanted to give a kind of some closing to episode 7, where I started about 4:30 in the morning, drove up to San Diego airport, to fly to San Jose, and then from there to drive to Fresno to go to the Mexican consulate there to do my last interview for residency, for temporary residency here in Mexico. I had recorded when I got back from the airport, which was about 11:30. My flight was late, of course, out of San Jose, returning back, and I still barely made the flight. But in any event, it was late, and so I got back about 11:30. I started recording, but it was a complete disaster. I had all kinds of issues happen with the recording, and I was so exhausted. Everything I said, I think, was pretty much wrong, so I just kind of scrapped that whole thing. I decided I'd start over and just talk about what happened, basically, the next time I did one of these, and that's right now, actually. So, episode 8, I'm going to be driving up to up to San Diego for some other stuff, but I'm going to talk about this residency thing and what happened upon my return from Fresno. So anyways, it was a really long day, as I mentioned. I left about 4:30 in the morning. I didn't end up getting home until about 1:30 or 2 a.m. So close to a 24-hour day, actually. And all of that time was spent basically working on some aspect of trying to finish up my residency application, temporary residency application here in Mexico. So I had to go to Fresno because that's where the only place where you can get actually interviews to do, at least right now, the only place that you can actually get interviews to do residency interviews, because all the other consulates are just not accepting reservations. They're not taking reservations. In fact, they're not actually taking them in Fresno either. You have to go up there in person to make the reservation, to get the thing arranged, and then you have to bring your paperwork with you. You also have to submit it online ahead of time. So I went to Fresno a few weeks back, about 6 weeks ago, I guess, to do that stuff, knowing that I'd have to go back for the final interview, which is what I did last week. So the interview went well. So it was at 3 o'clock, actually. It was scheduled in Fresno. So after I get to the San Jose airport, it's a 2.5-hour drive, really pretty drive, actually, through kind of the backwoods of California, if you want to call it that, but cutting across the state a little bit over to Fresno. Made it in time for the interview. The interview went really pretty much off without a hitch. It's a little bit unusual. You get there, it's closed. So the interview's at 3. The consulate actually closes at like 1, I think, 1 or 2. So I was the only one there. Me and a couple other people and the woman who did my interview were there. And also, of course, the consular, the main Mexican consular who makes the final decision, who you never actually meet. It's kind of funny, kind of like the faceless, nameless bureaucrat that you never actually get to see. But so you work with the one woman there who is the kind of the face of it, and she kind of asks you a few questions. She looks to make sure you have all your paperwork in order. And really, as I said before, it's not about it's really about the money. I mean, it's about how much money you make. I mean, really what they're looking for is, do you have a stable income? Is it high enough to meet their standards? And are you going to try and take Mexican jobs? So you're not going to be working in Mexico. And then also your company, whatever business you work for or do, is aware that you're living in Mexico, and they support that. And they also understand that you won't be earning income here in Mexico. But you will be spending a lot of money here in Mexico because your income is high enough to meet our standards. That is the idea. It's a little different for retirees. For retirees, the income standards are lower. And there's some other exceptions they make for retirees. They're trying to encourage expat retirees here. But for people of kind of working age, this is kind of what they're looking for. But there's a ton of paperwork that goes along with it, and it's all got to be filled out, of course, precisely, absolutely, correctly. One of the things you need to have is a letter from your employer stating, like I said, that they are aware you will live in Mexico, that you are working though in the U.S., and the letter's got to have a hand signature. It cannot be a copy or a facsimile, and they actually check that with a little thing they have. And they actually require 2 copies of that, which I didn't realize. I almost got screwed out of this. Fortunately, I got 2 copies when I got the thing signed. Fortunately, my boss, my manager, lives in Fresno, so that was also a really lucky happenstance here. I was able to get that letter pretty easily. But of course, there's a bunch of other stuff. You got to bring like 6 months worth of bank statements. Continuous, have to be continuous. Any gaps, and you're screwed. You got to be 6 continuous months. And they're pretty picky on all that stuff. And then you got to fill out a couple other kind of things. You got to bring a passport photo, etc. So did all that. Interview went fine. I had to rush back then because it was it went longer than I thought. I was there until about 4:30. I was waiting around most of the time. There's a lot of this involves a lot of waiting around. But I did that. We made it back to the airport. My flight was delayed getting back to San Diego out of San Jose. So I ended up getting back till about 11:30 when all was said and done. And then I had to drive. So the plan at that point is once you have your everything goes well in the interview, they put the temporary visa in your passport book, and they also give you a new FMM, which is good for 30 days. Okay, so you have, and the thing is, you have to cross back into Mexico within a week after getting this visa and the temporary, or this 30-day FMM. If you don't, the whole thing is invalid, and you have to start over. So I had to cross back into Mexico to get home anyways, so no big deal. I'm going to cross back into Mexico that night. There's another thing so the reason you have to do that, you have to get it stamped. You have to get the visa thing stamped. Because before you do that, you can't go to the last step of the process, which is the exchange, the canje, where you exchange the visa, the temporary FMM they gave you, that 30-day FMM, for your actual green card, your temporary residency card. So the plan was that we would go back through the border that night, and the very next morning we would go and do the canje, and I'd be good to go. I'd be done. I had my green card by the end of the next day. Well, it didn't quite work out that easily, because we eventually made it to the Mexican border. I met my wife there, Jen, and there's a west and an east side to this San Isidro for the immigration. We went to the east side first. We actually pulled into the declaration lane. We're not walking across. They don't do this kind of stuff by car. You have to actually walk across to get this thing stamped. So we had to go to one of the pedestrian crossings, and so we went to the pedestrian. We pulled over into the declaration area, walked into the immigration building there, and basically tried to figure out where to go from there and who could actually do this stamping of the entry visa. After 3 or 4 failed attempts, we found an office with a guy in there. He had the lights off. He was sitting there at his computer, lights off. It's like midnight, and he was just staring at the screen with all the lights off, and the computer wasn't even on, I don't think. And he was staring. So we walked in. He didn't seem all that happy that we were there. We basically explained what we were trying to do, and kind of broke his spit and just a little bit of English and this, and he basically understood it, but he was not happy about it. And he basically said, "Oh well, no, I can't do it now. You have to come back tomorrow," which seemed kind of fishy to me, but both of us really, because this was a guy that supposedly did this thing, and they say you can't do it, you have to come back tomorrow. But he clicked it, he took my passport, he clicked a few times around in the computer, such and the other thing, and he gave it back and said, "You have to come back tomorrow at 7 a.m. And we said, "Okay." And what can you do? Okay, we'll come back tomorrow at 7 a.m. We left. But fortunately, my wife was a little smarter than myself, and she recognized that the guy was wrong. Basically, he just was being lazy. He just didn't want to do the work required to do this, to make it happen. So there's another entrance. We decided we're going to try to do this. We're going to stay at the border here. We haven't officially crossed back into Mexico yet, so we're going to go over to the other entrance on the other side, the other immigration part entrance, and see if we can walk back in reverse. We're actually on the Mexican side at this point. Well, it's like a no man's land that you're in. It's not on the Mexican side of the U.S. side, sort of in the immigration area, or the no man's land area, I guess. And we walked over there, and then we're walking. We get there, and there's a gate you got to go through to get to this pedestrian crossing in reverse. And so we have to explain to these people who just, to me, look like random citizens about what we're trying to do. And they think they understood after a little bit of a cajoling. They let us through the gate there, and we walked all the way up to, in reverse, the Mexican immigration. This is a pedestrian walkway where people from the U.S. are coming into Mexico. We're going in reverse, and we eventually get to the gate, and there's guards, right, with guns, and also, the big M16s and everything else, pretty intimidating. So explain what we're trying to do. 3 or 4 different people come out eventually. Eventually, they waved us in. This very nice woman came and escorted us over to the place where we were supposed to go. The guy there took my stuff, handed me a form, gets to the computer. Meanwhile, in the computer, apparently the other guy, the guy that was the jerk that was was being lazy, had inactivated my visa. And I would have been completely screwed. If we had left the border that night, I would have been screwed. I would have had to have started the whole process over. Thank goodness Jen was smart enough to realize that was a dumb thing to do, because fortunately the guy there was able to override that inactivation, which for whatever reason that dickhead guy did. So anyhow, we got the paperwork done. I got the last thing that I needed to get, and got out of there. But all this took 3 hours worth of walking and thinking and talking and whatever, cajoling people, whatever we could do. So we ended up getting home about 2 in the morning. Okay, so the next day, is a Tuesday, and we decide so we're going to go do this thing. Okay, so we get up really early, no sleep, go out there. But one of the things you need to do. So administrative offices in Mexico don't take payments. Okay, you have to pay at a bank ahead of time for any service. And then you take this receipt thing with you to the service place that you try to get, the Tramite, that's the service. And you give them that. That shows us that you paid for the service. Well, it turns out Tuesday was a bank holiday, which we had no idea. So every single bank we went to, like 5 or 6 different banks, they're all closed. Okay, and because it's a bank holiday, so we couldn't do that, get the thing paid, so we couldn't go do the last part of the process. Okay, the next day, I can't remember what happened the next day. We couldn't go the next day, and then we tried to go on Friday, and we couldn't go on Friday. I can't remember exactly what happened on Friday. We couldn't go on Friday for some reason. So now it's Saturday. I still haven't gone. I got 30 days to do this last step, this Conhay. So my plan is to go Monday on my own. So Jen was not going to be able to go with me, which makes it even harder because it's a little bit intimidating, again, like most of these things are. And you have to sort of talk to a number of different people about what you're trying to do. It's an immigration office, a Tijuana branch of the immigration office, because we actually live in Tijuana officially. So we have to go to this Tijuana branch, and it's not the greatest part of Tijuana. Of course, there's not just all that many great parts, but it's fine. But the thing is, you got to talk to a number of people, explain what you're trying to do. And my Spanish is so-so, if that even. That's probably giving a lot too much credit. It's pretty shitty. So it's going to be a bit difficult. Unfortunately, Jen's been through it. I know exactly what to expect for the most part. I think I can muddle my way through it, but that should be an adventure on Monday. Trying to muddle my way through doing this last step, the Conhay, which is basically exchanging this 30-day FMM that I now have right now, exchanging that for a permanent or temporary residence card, my actual green card. Which once I have that, that's going to be great because that gives me a curb number. It gives me all kinds of other things that allow me to access certain services and just different things that make life easier here living in Mexico and make me fully legalized. So I'm going to write about this. I have read a little bit about it, but there's something like 80% of 80, depending on where you look or who you listen to, 80 to 90% or more of American expats, at least in Mexico, are actually living here illegally. So that's a pretty stunning statistic. You hear about all these grousing about illegal immigrants in the U.S. Mexicans taking our jobs and this and that, but there's a huge proportion, and they're here illegally, because basically they just never went through this process. And then, well, I understand why. I mean, it's fucking a pain in the ass. I mean, it is frustrating. It is difficult. It takes forever. You can pay people. There are services that will do this for you. They're quite expensive, but you can do that if you've got a lot of money. And even then, though, you still have to do some things for yourself. I think they don't do everything for you. They can, but they certainly probably make life easier because I tell you what, this has taken. Boy, it was 3 months ago, and I started this process. I guess something like that, and I'm still not quite done. But hopefully, to Monday, this will be the end, and I will actually walk out of that office there with my actual green card and be done. But there's a lot of Guardia Nacional around today. I'm not sure what's going on here, but there's a shit ton of uniformed military here, Mexican military going through the border, or going through the crossing here, and I've seen already in the drive here. Maybe didn't see the unusual number. I'm not sure why. It is a weekend. It is a Saturday. But it's 2 o'clock. Normally I wouldn't think this would be a busy time at the border, but you never know. I will be taking that my quote fastest route possible. That's not my default route. I just go to the beginning of the back of the front of the line there every single time, and if I can't turn right in there, which usually I can't, 99% of the time I can't, I just backtrack down that road to as far as I need to go to get to the back of the line and U-turn and get back in it. Sometimes I have to go all the way down to that last traffic circle, which is I would call my most conservative route. That traffic circle way back there. Sometimes I have to go that far, but that's fine. It's still faster doing that backtracking, I found, than going there straight away. So, and occasionally you get lucky and you can U-turn, really close to the front of the back of the line there. Anyhow, today I don't have much to do up the U.S. I've got to go get the post to go to the mail, get some mail. I'm going to play a little bit of Frisbee with Luna. And that's basically it. I come home, so I'm trying to make it a quick trip. But of course, if you say that, and anytime you go across the border, you just never know how quick or how slow or quick it's going to be. I'm a little bit more worried actually about coming back into Mexico tonight, only because it is a weekend. Weather's gorgeous, of course, as usual, but a lot of people coming into Tijuana for the weekends. Usually they come in on Thursday or Friday, though. Saturday nights don't typically tend to be that bad, at least from my experience. I could try and brave the Otay crossing, but maybe I'll do that tonight. I'm not sure when I come back. I don't know. Otay is about 20 minutes east of here. That crossing, it's a much smaller crossing than San Isidro, where I typically go. but it's less crowded usually, generally speaking. Also, I twisted my back something fierce yesterday, which really has screwed me up. It's made it very difficult to get anything done because I'm really in quite a bit of pain. But yeah, this is really quite busy at the toll booth here. We still haven't been taking the time yet to get our exclusivo pass, whatever it is, to get through this without having to pay. We figured out, we know the process, we know how to do it. It's really not that hard. Just got to make time to actually go ahead and do it. Like I said last time, or maybe I didn't say this, if you do watch this and you have questions about specific things I'm talking about, put them in the comments. Feel free to post them in the comments. I do check every once in a while, and I can try and answer. Or like I said, I'm happy to have a call, even talk to you through some of this stuff. There's certain steps maybe you're stuck at. You're trying to do some of this stuff. It's a lot easier to talk through because it's so complex. It really is really complicated. And even writing it down is you really can't do it. At one point I thought, you'll have a, I don't know, maybe it's all here. Shift change. Hold on, buenas tardes.
Alfredo, mándale, Alfredo.
Buen día.
Gracias.
Still falling in my Portuguese accent sometimes when I do the bom dia. It's bom dia here in Spain, here in Mexico, not bom dia as it is in Brazil with Portuguese. But and both were butchered, obviously, by pronunciation. Either one, nowhere near the way it's actually supposed to be pronounced. But in any case, so yeah, as I was saying, if you have specific questions, I'm trying to do some of the stuff that I talk about, and the way I talk about it, I know it's scattershot, confusing. If you haven't been through it, it probably makes no sense. But even if you are going through it, it makes not very much sense. But I'm happy to talk to you or try to answer your questions by email or in the comments or even on the phone. I wish I had a resource when we came down here. We had no resource really. The internet's got information, but you never know what's really realistic, what's accurate. There is a few Facebook groups. There's one I particularly like called Talk Baja, where you can post questions and get answers really about almost anything related to living in this area. And generally speaking, the answers are pretty accurate. The people on there are all pretty good. They've been here a while. They know they're kind of like veterans of the area, and it's quite large groups, so it's pretty diverse. But you can ask questions like where's a good place to go hiking? Or the other day I asked, what about are there other bouldering gyms in Mexico or this area that I'm not aware of? People will respond. Just about everybody's done something. But you can ask you can ask questions too about the process for doing anything as related to immigration or crossing the border or whatever. But yeah, I'm happy to talk or email if you have questions at my point. What else? Man, I can't wait to get that green card. I'm going to really be happy when I have this residency thing out of the way. So it's a temporary residence, and since it's only good for a year, but apparently the process for you have to renew it an additional time, at least one additional time, I believe, before you can apply for permanent residency. But the process for getting it renewed apparently is a lot much easier, or getting it whatever extended or renewed is much easier. You don't have to go through this whole process again. I'm okay on gas. I don't have to get gas here. It's good. Gas prices have come down a little bit here in Mexico. They were, that's gone back up again now, but right around 20 a liter, 20 pesos per liter, which I think translates to right around a little under $3 a gallon. I can do the math in my head, but still running them. It's actually a little bit cheaper up in the San Diego area. Still, it's under $6 now. I've seen it as low as I think $5.35 or something at one place. But it's been fluctuating pretty wildly. Trying to get that fit here in the car that I'm in right now in a better shape because I'm trying to sell it here soon. We're going to get down to 2 cars. Unfortunately, I'm going to be driving this stupid truck. It's 2001 Nissan Xterra, which is a gas guzzling nightmare. That's just it. Anyway, it's on a second engine, 3rd transmission. This is going to be my new car. So we figure out what we're going to do about another car. And then we got to move. So the move is coming up here at the beginning of December. We're going to actually get the keys last week in November, which is actually right around the corner. But our lease is not up in our current place until the end of December, so we have an overlap of a month to get moved, which is really great, which is actually really nice. And we're moving just down the street, so it's going to be a relatively easy move, I hope. So gorgeous day again, 66, sunny, low humidity. It's been getting cooler at night. Clearly we're moving into what they call the rainy season, and I guess winter here. What's winter here. So it's dripped down into the 50s a couple times. I think the other day when I woke up it was 52, which is as cool as I've seen it here. Still have yet to be cold, but I do have long sleeves. At night at least I'm wearing a jacket or long sleeve shirts. No real rain of any note yet. There was a couple times when water appeared out of the sky, but it wasn't like falling down, so I wouldn't necessarily call it rain. But it's gotten really windy. It also tends to get very, very windy at night, like between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. at this time of year, at least where we are. And when I say being windy, man, it gets really, really windy. It's like shaking the glass of the house windy, really windy. Beautiful Tijuana. TJ, we had our first experience with Sims at that big building there, that big highest skyscraper you see there is a Simsa building, which is a healthcare. It's like I don't know exactly what you call it. It's a private healthcare kind of thing that a lot of expats use and a lot of Mexicans use too, wealthy Mexicans at least, because it has really, really good healthcare there at really affordable prices. So we went in there last week, and it's really quite nice in there. I kind of like that's sort of my first exposure to the Mexican healthcare system. The way they do it, you don't wait around forever like you do in the U.S. when you go to a doctor's office. They've got it set up so that you don't actually wait around that much. I think what they have is they have offices that are shared among different specialties, doctors with different specialties, and they just sort of rotate by time. And they're basically no nonsense. There's no chit chat. There's no how's it going, what's out your family doing, all that kind of thing. It's right down to business. And it's but it's very, very professional and very, very, very good. But I think it's part of the way they keep it efficient. As I get more exposure to the Mexican healthcare system, I'll definitely be talking about it more here. Right now, it's mostly my wife is using it. She's got her insurance at her current employer. It's basically non-insurance. It's absolutely ludicrous how crappy it is. If it even is real, I'm not even sure about that. But anyway, that's been useless. So she got two different things. She bought this. There's a plan, a Mexican discount plan that you only applies to Sims and services, which gives you a big chunk off the typical price. It's only like $50 a month, or not even $50 a year, or something like that. $80 a year. It's really cheap. And then she also got this Geo Blue insurance, which is like an international insurance. And so between those two things, it's been so far pretty decent. I haven't really used it very much, but better than a current non-insurance. My own work insurance theoretically will cover me anywhere in the world. It's got international coverage as well. I have not yet tested that theory. Any medical care that I've had in the U.S. But Jen had to have a tooth extracted, and she did that in Mexico, and it actually turned out really, really quite well. And it was way more for it. I think that's the sort of thing that would run you $3,000-$4,000 in the U.S. I think it was like $400 or $300 or something. Way cheaper. And there's a lot of dentists down here for that very reason. Dental work, cosmetic stuff, anything like that. In fact, the whole floor of that Sims is dedicated to cosmetic. The top floor of the penthouse is like this spa and cosmetic surgery center, which is massive and apparently really popular. Where the services are like a quarter of the price. So I've been going to UC Davis for CT scans fairly well. I will be going regularly. I had been going regularly. And got the first bill. I got 2 CT scans, $13,000 each for 2 CT scans. I mean, that's just incredible. Fortunately, insurance covered a big chunk of that, but $13,000. A similar CT scan here in Mexico is running $600 on average. It's just insane. $13,000 for a CT scan. I mean, that's high. I mean, that's high by U.S. standards. Even I was able to get them in Kentucky, where I was, for around 2,000 or 3,000, I think, at the out of office type places. Not the hospital CT centers, but the generic ones. All right, I'm not going to go up here because that's really looking backed up. Normally, I would get off there to the right. It's actually looking quite backed up everywhere here. Just a surprise. I don't know what's going on here. Or I gotta wait. I'm gonna go to the next one here. I'm gonna take a right. This next one, which bypasses that. A little bit of that back up. Actually, no, what am I gonna do here? I don't know if I'm gonna do that either. Think about this. Yeah, I think I'm going to. I'm gonna take a left up there. That stop sign. Even though that bridge was backed up, I don't want to go. I don't want to go all the way to the other thing. I'm gonna take a right up here. Oh man, it's really backed up, boy. Border is busy. That's interesting. I don't know what's going on. There's police now. I'm not sure where they're at. I'm here. Oh, so speaking of police, so I talked a little bit about the police and such. I think a couple of episodes here. My wife did get shaken down. First time this has happened here to us. She went out to a grocery store fairly late at the night, maybe 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the evening by herself, and she got pulled over by police on motorcycles, supposedly municipal police. I'm not sure what they were. She said she couldn't really tell, but they had lights, they had sirens, there were 3 of them. They pulled her over and basically extorted her for money. I don't go through the whole story, but essentially she ended up giving them 800 pesos in the end, and they let her go after a whole bunch of back and forth and rigmarole. I mean, the whole thing is complete bullshit. It really pisses me off, but in any event, that's the first time that has happened to us. I think the thing is that she was out by herself. I think she was kind of viewed as an easy target. Here's a female out by herself, obviously a foreigner, and so I think that's probably what I really should have gone with her. But we just didn't think that anything like that would really happen. You know, you never really do, but it did. So we were out 800 pesos for that. Not much you can do in that situation, I gotta say. I think she handled it pretty well. I think when she showed them the fact that she was a resident, I think that maybe helped some, but I mean, you're pretty much at their mercy because you're in a foreign country. You're trusting that they are actually law enforcement, which, I mean, apparently, how do you know if they're not? If you run, and they are, you know, for us, you're absolutely screwed. You know, we get kicked out of the country or whatever, then we're completely screwed. So you gotta sort of trust that they are what they say they are. And then they start trying to ask you for bribes. Basically, is what they did. Otherwise, like, if you don't pay this money, you can pay this money here, or you can come down to the station with us. Is basically the alternative. And it's like, well, I think I would pay the money too. I mean, I know I would. But first they were saying it's $200 U.S. dollars. And that's when, then they saw she was a resident. That's when I went to well, what do you have on you? And that's when she said, well, I got 800 pesos. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, it's annoying because I don't know if these are municipal police. Municipal police are typically not the ones shaking the people down. Usually it's the touristica. But I don't see the touristica in the area where I lived all that often. I don't really see them on motorcycles either. But that's my guess is that's what these were. These really weren't municipal police. Who knows? Maybe they weren't even police. Again, she said it was just so hard to see because it's quite dark, you know, in the area she was. It was at night. They were trying to get her to pull off apparently into some like dark alley, you know, these back roads, these dark alleys, and smart for her, she refused. And she's like, no, she put her emergency blinkers on and it would only pull over off on the main road once they got to a spot where it was safe. I mean, as a woman alone, you know, 3 guys, who knows, in a foreign country pulling you off into a dark alley somewhere, you just don't know. I mean, she can take care of herself, that's for sure, but I mean, those are long odds. There's such a disadvantage being a foreigner, even with the residency thing. I mean, and they know that, and that's the sad thing about it. That's what makes it even more sad. My guess is if I had been in the car, that never would have happened. They never would have pulled us over. It just makes it too much. It's less of it. They're looking for the easiest target. Always looking for something, the least resistance. A woman alone, a foreign woman alone at night is probably about is what they view as the easiest target of them all. The reason they said they pulled her over was because she only had a license plate on the back of her car. So in Kentucky, as many of you probably know, in certain states in the U.S., you're only required to have a license plate on the back of the car, not on the front and back. And so because they said, no, you have to have it on the front and back, because they're just used to seeing every car, because California has that requirement to have it on the front and back, and so do many other states in the area. Kentucky does not, though. So because of that, that was their excuse for why they pulled her over. She didn't have a license plate on the front of the car. This is actually moving quite slow here. This is pretty backed up. That's the New City Medical Plaza. That's the Sims thing I was talking about. Well, you can't see it. It's off here to your right. But you can see the Easy Park. It's our parking lot. For a long time. And we actually used it again. We went to the Sims the other day. And also doing all the immigration stuff. Because all that immigration stuff that I was describing earlier was happening up in this area. I'm looking down here. I'm looking down over the bridge to the left. I can see the entry into Mexico, the crossing into Mexico, and it's actually pretty busy. Yeah, it's actually really busy. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, rarely does this bridge slow down like this too. This is quite unusual. So I've got a feeling I'm not going to be getting very close to the front of the line here, but you never know. Again, I'm gonna try to check when my border crossing out, so I have to stop the recording to do that. So I do want to at least keep going until I get into the line. I might just shut it down once I get into the line. Not making it sit to the entire line there with me. What else is going on? Let's see. Lots. You can turn the camera. That's interesting. So that's good. On this my new phone here, you can actually turn the video camera to the other direction, and it does not stop recording. But hey, let us say hi. Say hi to the. There's a little back there saying hi. What is that? far left here because I'm going to be going around this traffic circle. This is a circle that's right before the back of the entrance, right back of the front of the back of the line. Oh no. Okay. Hopefully next time I do one of these episodes, I'll be an official temporary resident. Like I said, I'll be writing about this, about the whole experience. I've already started something. Hopefully I can get that published soon after I get the actual card in hand. I've been writing a lot lately. I think I must have banged out 15 stories yesterday I published. Like that. A lot of rehashing of old material, but good stuff in there, I think. My first experience actually having a pharmacy deliver medicines to the house. That's kind of nice. One of the things that you find in Mexico is that there are many services will be brought to you at your home, and often for free. So the pharmacies in at least that part of Mexico where I live all deliver whatever your medications to your house, and they all do it for free, basically. Not basically, for free. And it's relatively quick. So you do have to pay in cash. At least I do, because we don't yet have a Mexican credit card. Well, that's going to change as soon as I get my residency. We're going to open up a Mexican bank account and try to start building some credit here in Mexico. That should be interesting too. I've heard different things about how easy or hard it is actually to get a Mexican bank account. I guess I'll find out. Generally speaking, what I've read, that's one of the harder things to do for most foreigners in a different land, is actually opening a bank account. So I guess I can understand why. So I'll be going all the way around this traffic circle and getting out the other side. I don't even know why they have these lights in the traffic circle. They're always flashing red, so it functions basically as a stop sign. But as you can see, it's like you're relying on basically someone to let you in, and you just gotta kind of go, because there's no kind of people will stop, generally speaking. There we go. Oh, that was very nice. That was really nice. Some people are quite good drivers here, I think. As I've said many times. That's the general lane, I think, or all traffic lane. Could be ready, I'm not sure. Right over that wall right there. Alright, now let's see if we get lucky. Starting to get to know the area down here fairly well, actually, because we spent a lot of time down here for different reasons, not just crossing the border now. So I get a better sense for where some of these streets go, where they don't go. Based on what I saw driving up here, I'm guessing that you have yellow shirts here. There's no way I can just turn it right here, unfortunately. The question is now, how far back will I have to go before I get U-turn? Looks like somebody's pissed off here about something. So I'm just going to get out of this guy's way here. Don't like that. Why he's been screaming at that guy? This guy just seems to be sitting here for some reason too. I'm not quite sure why. Not moving. Maybe he got an accident or something. Where'd he go? I don't know what's going on there. It's an accident. Anyway, so now the question is, how far back here do I have to go before I get U-turn? So that's where I need to be. And it's looking like pretty darn far. this circle, so I gotta go back even past this thing. This is like a 30-minute wait back here. Looks like, especially the way it's not moving all that fast. Damn it. I don't understand on weekends, but I usually do this. God. Oh, man. And I'm contemplating bailing. Shoot. Ah, shoot. I think I'm gonna call it right here, everybody. I'm gonna get back. I'm gonna get into the end of the line here, and we're already at 45 minutes for this trip. I think I got the stuff I wanted to talk about out of the way about the residency stuff. And anyway, that's it for episode ocho. I can learn how to say episode in Spanish actually, so I can start saying that in Spanish. But episode 8, episode ocho of Border Crossing. I'll be with you who knows when for the next episode. Hopefully somebody's watching this. Send me some stuff in the comments. Let me know what you think and if questions you might have. Like I said, we can connect on by phone or by email or whatever too if you have specific questions you want to ask about anything that I talk about. All right, take care. Bye.